a load of fruit that might go unsold because of economic hard times or intense competition, was an afterthought for Hart until it ripened into another fiscal crisis. It was during one such predicament that Hart was approached by Emilio Nuñez, a member of the Cuban Revolutionary Party, a cadre of exiled conspirators in New York, whose singular purpose was to liberate the island from 400 years of Spanish rule. The head of the party, an ambitious writer and orator named José Martí, had launched the current uprising in January 1895 after determining that the final revolution would require material support shipped in from the United States. After several attempts were thwarted by federal authorities, Spanish spies, or incompetence, Nuñez was named conductor of this Gunrunners railway, securing vessels and enlisting pilots from a farrago of American towboat operators, merchant captains, and importers in the burgeoning fruit industry. At his first meeting with Hart, Nuñez dangled the promise of adventure in the pursuit of a just cause and adequate payment for services rendered. Hart's vessels merely had to evade the federal revenue cutters that guarded every American port, negotiate the hazards of a reluctant sea, and avoid the shot and shell of the Spanish blockade to deliver their cargo at remote inlets and isolated beaches along the Cuban coast. After fulfilling a mission, Hart was free to send his empty ships to the lush plantations of Jamaica, Nicaragua, and Colombia to fill their empty holds with fruit for the lucrative return northward. What could go wrong? Hart and others who became embroiled in the trade were called filibusters, derived from the Dutch word vrijbuiter for freebooters or pirates. Their deeds inspired the label attached to a political act in Congress, but in the 19th century, filibusters were both respected and reviled, depending where sentiment fell. Hart's early success at landing expeditions did not go unnoticed by those who were trying to stop him. Spain wanted to halt the flow of arms into rebel hands, while the U.S. government rigidly enforced its neutrality laws, which prohibited citizens from aiding the enemy of a nation with whom the United States was at peace. The American public was well informed of Hart's adventures through the aggressive tactics of newspaper publishers William Randolph Hearst, Joseph Pulitzer, and others, who demanded stories that captivated their paying readers. A boisterous master of ships thumbing his nose at his own government while transporting guns and ammunition to the Cuban insurgents was an irresistible story. The cooperative Yellow Press reported and often embellished Hart's exploits as daring do on the Spanish Main, eliciting visions of hardened buccaneers sailing fearlessly into danger with a brace of pistols in their hands and a cutlass between their teeth. Hart's experience in New York Harbor on this night was far less romantic. When the W.J. McCulden returned to the scene, Hart leaped from the tug's railing to the Bermuda's ladder and climbed onto the deck, loudly demanding that the officers explain their actions. Marshal McCarthy told Hart the vessel was being seized by the U.S. government and warned him not to interfere or he would be arrested. "To hell with the United States Marshals and their gang!" Hart yelled defiantly, turning toward the bewildered Cubans. "Come on here, get up this anchor, and let us get out to sea." Hart raised clenched fists to confirm his command as a half-dozen marshals rushed toward him, only to be scattered like a swarm of mosquitoes. Hart was in high dudgeon, running across the deck, trying to rally his men while ignoring the pursuing authorities. The agents, though bloodied for their efforts, finally subdued Hart and pinned him to the deck. Writhing and trying to break free, Hart sputtered his objections to no avail. He was bound and caged in a makeshift brig below until he could be transported to the federal lockup at the foot of Manhattan. His antagonist out of the way, Marshal McCarthy went to work disabling the Bermuda as Hart sat below, seething at the federal officer's disrespectful treatment of an American citizen. The government would win this battle.